Hey there! So spring is coming soon and a little bit more than a month, Easter time starts as well. Therefore I thought I'm going to share some inspiration for DIYs you could use to decorate or even give as presents. They are handmade, personal, and in this or other cases they don't cost that much. The only things you have to put in are some time and effort and maybe some love as well. So let's get started! Starting with the cork elements, I'm using my only die of this kind I have, and it came with my die cutting machine from Sizzix. This die is special because it is able to cut thicker materials such as cork, felt or similar materials. But don't worry if you don't have a die cutting machine, I'll share another option soon. Next I grab my cork material and cut it a little bit down to size so that it fits into my machine. So next I die cut the cork and repeated the process until I had all elements I wanted. Now I'm sharing another way on how to do this. Again, I cut a smaller piece of the material and then I use a black permanent marker to draw on it. Two notes here: if you can't draw, use a stencil. And for very simple designs you can make your own stencil easily by folding a piece of paper in half, draw on one side of the heart and fold it up. For leaves and other shapes you can make this sometimes similar. And second note, don't use a black permanent marker for this if you don't have any very good paint later on or just want to leave the cork as it is. And even if you have good paint, it might not cover the black permanent marker completely. Instead, grab a lighter color which you can cover or something like a chalk marker which might be erasable. And test before you start. After I'm done with cutting, I grab some acrylic markers for coloring. If you want, you can leave them as they are, but I wanted to add just a little bit of detail to at least some of them. Before coloring, I shake the markers well and pump until the paint flows down the nib. By the way, I'm using Molotov markers here because they work very well, have good paint and are also refillable. Because I use them quite often, for me they are worth it. But you could also use cheaper alternatives such as Decatime acrylic markers, which work as well. By the way, these elements can be used as decorations or to protect your table if you want to put something on top. You can also use felt to make such elements, and later I will also share how I made hangers. Unfortunately, I didn't film the coloring of the butterfly well, so I cut it out. But basically I used the black permanent marker to color the middle part and add an outline in the inside of the wings. Next I used some white to add more details inside the wings, in my case little white dots in different sizes and shapes. While coloring the heart, I realized that the paint is not showing up that well because I didn't add a white layer beforehand. So to make the paint look brighter, I decided to add another layer of white paint and color it later again. The white paint I also used for coloring the leaves of one daisy. To get a nice effect, I used the strokes of the paint marker to kind of fade them out and create a nice effect where you can still see the cork. Next, in the middle of the daisy, I added a yellow circle. With a brown marker, I added more details like little dots in the middle, an outline to the yellow circle and divided a little bit more the petals. Somehow I missed filming this, but I repeat the process for another flower later. After drying, I added another layer of paint to some of my elements. Some of the dots of my butterfly I surrounded with a black outline to make them a little bit more outstanding. And here again, adding more layers of color. By the way, this material I got for not a lot of money. I believe it was about 2 to 3 euros in a store which sells a lot of different products, and I found it in the craft section. By the way, here you can see the black permanent marker showing through. And as said before, here I'm putting another layer of the pink on top. Here I wasn't sure if I should put multiple layers of cork together. This would be nice if you want to create some kind of coasters, but I decided against it. But if you use really heat-proof materials and do this at your own risk, you can also create coasters. And if not, maybe you can customize pre-made coasters. Finally, I used a darker shade of pink or reddish color and added some shading to my heart in a cartoony style. That way I could cover up the darker lines underneath, which were still showing. Another way would be trying to cover up the lines with more layers, but I already applied some layers and wanted a faster solution. But I also have to say I really like cartoony styles, so I was completely fine and happy with that. To the leaf I added more detail as well, like leaf veins and shading. To be honest, if I would do this again, I would choose a darker green for the base layer to add more contrast. But I still like the result. Now here you can see how I colored the daisy. As said before, I draw in a circle in the middle, colored the petals and tried to create a shading, and finally added some details with a darker color. After I have finished painting the first elements, I could move on to the last step, which is kind of a sealing. Therefore, I applied at least 2 coats of glossy acrylic varnish to each element. If you want to use them as coasters later on, make sure that it resists at least some heat, depending on what you use them for. And be careful, use at your own risk. If you are not sure, leave it and use only as decoration or to place not hot things on top. For example, they can protect your table. To the heart, I add some white highlights as well. Finally, sealing the rest, and now they are done. Next decorations, I used the die cut again, but this time I used different colored and thin felt. You can make the first decorations also with felt, but I do not recommend putting any hot things on top for safety purposes and or for not destroying anything. Now I start the same process again and die cut the felt and also some cork. If some pieces don't get completely cut, you can use scissors to cut them out as well. This way you can also use the methods I explained with the cork to get different shapes without using a die. After everything is cut, I sort all the different pieces and arrange them together as I liked. To some of the flower stacks I added a circle in the same color like the smaller flower. Later you will see why. Next, I grab some rivets in different colors and sizes. With a needle and a pad, I poke some holes into the middle or on the sides of the elements. After that, I added the rivet to put two flowers together. With glue and the dot, I covered the backside up. If the punching process does not work, you can also cut a small hole into the flowers. By the way, and in general, be careful with all the steps where you can get hurt. So gently apply pressure, try to make it safe, always moving away from the body, etc. Hearts and butterflies I glue together in the middle, but all elements can be left single as well. When they are done and dry, I made another hole into the elements and used a needle to put a thread through. When the thread was through, I knotted the ends together to achieve a loop where I can hang it up. I repeated the process with all of them, and now all decorations are done. If you enjoyed this video, I would be very happy if you give this video a like. If you have any questions or want to add something, you can also leave a comment and subscribe for more content like this. With that, you can help me producing more content like this, and it's completely free. See you next time and bye!